All right, so welcome back, grade 9. We just looked at Alphonzo Davies' story as we're covering chapter 5 on immigration in Canada. And we watched a quick documentary about Alphonso Davies' story. He comes from Liberia. Now, Liberia is not just any country in Africa. Liberia is a country that was created for ex-slaves to return to. So that's the history of Liberia. Liberia, the word Liberia comes from liberty. It was created for ex-slaves from America to return back to. Now, Liberia is a war-torn country, and at the beginning of the video, his mom and dad, reflecting on life in Liberia, mentioned that they had lived through 2 civil wars. So that's a push factor, pushing them out of Liberia. That they lived in refugee camps in Liberia. That at these refugee camps there'd be a lack of food and water and sleep, and that death was all around them. Many of the children at these refugee camps would be taken from their families, and they would be forced to become soldiers while they're still children. Knowing what Alphonso's future would be if they stayed in Liberia, they fled Liberia, leaving all of their family back in Liberia. Just mom and dad and Alphonso. That's it. The 3 of them left, leaving all their extended family back in Liberia. And they were pulled to Canada. And in Canada, there's a resettlement process for new Canadians. So as a part of that resettlement process, they had to study Canada's history. They had to pass tests to become Canadian. And at the beginning of the video, the mom talks, and she's quite emotional about it. She talks about the opportunity that everyone in this room has, and that Alphonso had now that he was in Canada. An opportunity to have food and water and sleep, and not be forced into a civil war as a child soldier. An opportunity to go to school, because back in Liberia, only the rich could afford to go to school. That here in Canada, and the story has most of it happens in Edmonton, there is enough security that he actually got to start playing soccer for the first time in Edmonton. Now we know where the story ends up. Alphonso Davies right now is playing for the #1 club team in the world, and there's more than 2,000 ranked club teams. So when you're the #1 club team, it's not like saying, oh man, you're the #1 team in the NHL, there's 31 teams in the NHL. #1 club team in the world is huge. He's making 1.2 million euros a year, about $4,000 a day, playing football, playing soccer. But the story isn't just as simple as he goes from civil war to making $4,000 a day. That as a 10-year-old, he had 2 younger siblings that he, as a 10-year-old, had to be their daycare for, because after school, mom and dad were working because they were living in poverty. So he took care of his siblings while they were off at work. He also worked out every day. Also after school, he would find time to work out. And his classmates and teammates and coaches mentioned his character, that he's humble and he's quiet. He's respectful of older people. And when he was given an opportunity at the age of 14 to go play in Vancouver for the Whitecaps, his mom and dad were worried, and he made a promise that he would be a good boy. That it would be easy to have the wrong friends, especially when you have talent. You know, talent attracts attention. A lot of people would like to be a part of his crew, but because of his personality, his work ethic, his life didn't peak in Vancouver. His story doesn't end in Vancouver. His story continues, and he gets to Munich. And his story's not over yet, because he continues to have those intangibles. And I think that in the story of Alphonso Davies, we can see a success story of Canada's immigration policy. Because of our immigration policy, we now have the greatest Canadian soccer player of all time. Much like Donovan Bailey is the fastest runner of all time, fastest Canadian runner, but he was born in Jamaica. We have the best Canadian soccer team, or soccer player of all time, born in Liberia. but he's Canadian. So not only is it a success story for our immigration policy, I think that there should be a message here for you as a Canadian. You know, what are the advantages of being a Canadian that many Canadians ignore on a daily basis? So, before you leave today, we have 20 minutes left. When you leave today, I'd like you to leave a piece of paper on your desk. And then after it quarantines for 12 hours or whatever, I'll pick it up tomorrow morning and I can mark it. And on that piece of paper, I want you to tell me the story of Alphonzo Davies. I took notes on the side for a reason. I want you to just tell me a little bit about how it shows a success story of the immigration policy. In your story, I want you to tell me about push and pull factors. But I also want you to tell me why it's important for Canada to have immigration. I don't know about you, but it seemed like the people that got to meet Alphonzo, they were infected by his energy. You know, his teammates, his coaches, his schoolmates. It's great to have success stories like this in Canada. Tomorrow I'll be sharing more with you from the world of economics. But I wanted to show one that, you know, he's not much older than you. He's not much older than you. Decisions he made when he was your age allowed him to now become one of the most recognizable football players in the world. And his career is just getting started. So it's a very exciting time for Canada and Canadian soccer and for Alphonzo Davies. And unfortunately, his story begins with civil war and having to move around Africa as you know, the borders change, and as the war becomes international, they become refugees and they flee to Canada. Now he's in Munich. So when you leave here today, leave a piece of paper on your desk with your name on it, and just kind of sum up the Alphonzo Davies story. How it shows the success story of immigration in Canada, but also how it shows that Canada, it benefited Alphonzo Davies and his family to come to Canada. But also tell me how immigration can help Canada. Now, how are we richer because he came here? And that's where we'll leave it today.